welcome to the Inglorious Blasters podcast, a Star Wars Legion podcast talking anything and everything glorious or inglorious about the game. My name is Brendan, and with me today again is John. We are for a second recording in a row without Corey. We are all very sad by that fact. Corey will return, do not worry. But, until then, you're stuck with just me and John.
He gone. Just me and Brendan. Hello, everybody.
Heartless. John's the heartless one here.
What?
Heartless. He gone? That's immediately what you say?
I mean, he is, he's not, nobody's really gone.
For shame.
I don't know.
Anyway, we got Legion to talk about. So, we'll move on, because John's being mean. But first off, we're going to give a quick shout out to the two tournaments we've been asked to shout out. The St. Laurent Open in Canada on October 19th and 20th in Montreal. If you have additional questions or want to know more, you can go to stlaurent.com to find out more. I'm sorry, stlaurenopen.com to find out more. Additionally, also in October on the 12th is the 3-foot good fall brawl. And if you want to find out more about that, you can find the event on Longshanks. So, John, I have finally played some games of 260 in a tournament-type environment.
Very nice. Why don't you tell us about them?
Yep. First, let me go over my list. I decided to have a lot of fun with my list. And so I played a Vader do-back list. So it was Krennic with strict orders and improvised orders. Operative Vader with burst of speed, force push into the fray, and tenacity. One stormtrooper with an RT-97C. Two stormtroopers with the RT-97C. Two snowtroopers with the T-7 Ion snowtrooper and recon intel. One stormtrooper with a medical droid. A Royal Guard with Electrostaff, into the fray, tenacity, and recon intel. And 3 dewbacks with tenacity, HQ uplink, and the RT-97C blaster rifle. Before I get too into the games, I do want to say I learned a lot with this list, both in terms of kind of how the game now plays, as well as realizing that there's a lot of things I need to adjust in how I am used to playing the game, personally. One thing I will say, one of the two things I was happiest about with my list before I get into any kind of results. The RT-97C, both on the Stormtroopers and on the dewbacks, actually does some work now because of the change to the cover rules. That range 4 poke with the 1 red and 3 white, huge. Those shots were regularly getting me, 2 to 3 hits. Even with the white dice. Even without aims. I don't know, maybe my dice were just a little hot, but since both units surge, it did make the math a little bit better there. So I think that any kind of ranged weapon, even if it's a smaller dice pool with not as great dice, worth looking at now. So that's one of the things I took away. The other, and I'll get into it in more detail in my second game, is Ion is a lot better now. I think going forward for any Empire list I build that can take snowtroopers, I'm putting at least 2 Ion guns in my army. It's huge because, it has that ability to impact the vehicles as well as negate shields, which is a really nice feature to have, considering clone commandos. So, my first game, I got to play against Hob. and we had an empire off. Hob was running a Krennic shoreline with an Iden tax strike attached to it. So it's my first time ever playing a game of 260, and Hob and I have played a few times in the past, so this was a real fun one to play. Tax strike is no joke in the new world, and I gotta say, big shout out to one of my dewbacks, because it took 6 full shots for him to die on the first turn.
Whoa, invincible dewback you got there.
Almost. I mean, he was taking some shots. It also helped that I had played Cunning Deployment as my advantage card, so I made sure all my dewbacks had dodge on them. So it was, that one little dodge helped a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it was 2 shores and 2 mortars, and I think at least 2 of the tax strike shots and to take down the dewback on the first turn. But yeah, tax strike is now really, really good. And considering Hob had Krennic, he also had a 4th Special Forces in the form of the Death Trooper. So that was a lot of shots coming at me at the start of the game. I was able to have some fun in new ways and get the remaining dewbacks and the IRG into melee, as well as Vader. Every game I did divulge Darkness Descends and infiltrate with Vader, because that's now really, really good, especially because I had Burst of Speed on Vader, and I think every game I got Vader into melee on turn 1.
Ooh, that's spicy.
Yeah, it was fun. I don't think I ever didn't get him into melee. But yeah, no, sorry, my second game he didn't get into... No, he did get into melee turn 1. But yeah, no, so I think that's the play. I don't think it works with Commander Vader because of the new withdrawal rules. He's just stuck. But I think it can work with Operative Vader. So it's a fun strategy. Oh, hey, Vader in your lines at the start of the game. But Hob and I, we ended up playing... I'm trying to find the details here. We played Intercept, and our secondary was Sweep. It was weird, kind of trying to learn these ones. Just reading the cards is one thing, but then trying to know how to do it is another. What I learned from this game the most is, as much as I was having fun just, murdering his units, I wasn't playing the objective well enough, and we ended up going to time on turn 4. Had we gotten to turn 5, Hob and I both agreed I would have won the game because I would have been able to get the next couple objectives I needed to score points, and I easily was winning on kill points at that point. But he had scored more of the objectives earlier in the game. So I ended up losing this one 8-7. Still a really close game, but again, I just couldn't quite get there on time to score those points I needed to. But it was a ton of fun, and I completely failed to take any pictures, so I'm sorry to everyone. I will not be updating the Instagram, because I was too busy trying to learn how to play these games and didn't think to take any cool pictures. But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. I should say this tournament was at Game Castle in College Park, Maryland. There's a lot of good players who are at this tournament. I'm sure you will hear about it on at least one other podcast, because 2 members of that podcast were there and ended up playing each other in the final round. They're a notorious crew. That's all I'll say. But my second game was against Josh, and he was running a Anakin 501st list with Rex and some clone commandos, and he had a beefy clone trooper squad with fives, so it was fives plus the whole group of extra, 5 guys that go into that squad, and a bunch of ARC troopers. So I was honestly a little terrified of that list, mostly because Anakin Skywalker. The one thing that went really well for me was his Anakin didn't have push. So I felt a little bit safer with being able to do whatever kind of shenanigans I wanted to with my Vader if they were to get into a big fight. And it was turn 1. I did get Vader into melee with one of his ARC troopers, but I wasn't able to do a swing. I was able to just force push him in and get him in there, I think. Maybe I was able to get the swing in. I can't remember. But my memory's terrible. This was only a couple days ago.
Do you remember what force upgrades did he have on his Anakin in place of force push?
He had... I can find this on Longshanks. Hold, please.
Probably
on
burst.
his Anakin, he had force reflexes and saber throw.
Oh, interesting.
As well as offensive stance and into the fray.
All right. I like the saber throw. I wouldn't have thought to do reflexes. I mean, the dodge is nice, but I feel like if you don't run push, most people are doing burst of speed to just, like, basically nuke things at lightning speed. Yeah,
it could have been a points thing. I'm not 100% sure on the rationale behind it. But he had a lot of stuff going on. In this game, I kind of split my army a little bit. I basically had the core going down the middle. I had Vader, a dewback, and an IRG taking one flank, and I had 2 dewbacks taking another flank. And that's because of the mission we were playing, which was... It's in here somewhere. We were playing the bunker one, as well as the destroy the bunker secondary. So it was all about bunkers.
Double dose of bunkers.
Double dose of bunkers. And we were playing on one of those Sith Temple type maps. And we had put both of our bunkers basically on opposite sides of the tall, like, pyramid structure. So it made it be, hey, we're putting most of our beefy units over here. So we basically were poised to eventually have a Vader and Anakin match.
Nice.
I learned after killing one of his ARC squads that the tempted keyword didn't just give an attack, because that's the only part I remembered. It also gave Anakin a free move. Luckily, his free move couldn't get him into melee with anything, so he couldn't take advantage of charge. So I was a little happy there. But he did eventually get Anakin into my Royal Guards, and he did take out a model and a half with his swing. I then had my medic squad run to bring back a guy. Instead of just... So I had 2 guys in the squad with just 1 health each on them for my retribution punch. And I took out half of Anakin's health in that one attack from the Royal Guard.
Ooh.
He unfortunately did not roll very well with his Anakin saves. And then the dewback was able to join and finished off Anakin.
Ugh. That sucks for Anakin.
Yeah, it sucked for Anakin, but it was glorious for the Empire. Unfortunately, a lot of his arc saves kind of ended up being a little similar. And neither of us had fun doing the impervious math every time Vader used his lightsaber. I've never been good at the math on impervious. I don't know why. But the other thing that really stood out to me for this game was the snows against the clone commandos. If you just keep peeling away that shield, they go down. They only have the guitar armor once. And even if the shield keeps coming back, you just keep hitting them with an ion. That extra health is gone, with the shield being useless. So it took, I want to say, only 3 or 4 shots from my 2 snowtrooper squads to take down one of his 2 clone commando squads. Like, a lot of people are saying, hey, the clone commandos are busted. Bring a little ion. They're a lot less busted.
Yeah. Or get them in melee. I mean...
Or get them in melee.
When you have them in melee, they don't seem as crazy.
Yeah. So the rest of the game was, basically in the middle of the table with the core shooting back and forth and my other dewbacks trying to get into melee and do their shenanigans while Vader, the IRG, and the other dewback are going to blow up some bases and, then start swinging in towards the other direction. It ended up being a little bit of a bloodbath, and I do apologize to Josh for that. We've had good games in the past, and it felt a little bit bad that for the most part that loss is on the dice just betraying him. But I had learned from my first game, and I did my best to make sure that I was playing the objective as much as possible. Yep. So I ended up winning that one 9-5, and as I said, his dice kind of betrayed him a bit, because he'd only killed 253 points of mine while I killed 724 of his. I think I had only lost 1 dewback and 2 of my core. No, I lost 2 dewbacks and 1. 2 dewbacks and 1 of my core, I think.
For Anakin to go down that quickly, that is super unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, I had some good die rolls. I mean, the Royal Guard roll was like 8 hits, and the dewback was another 6.
Ugh.
So it was a lot of dice to have to roll and dice. So
yeah, for sure.
But it was a lot of fun. My last game is the one where I feel like I learned the most because I was just not prepared for dealing with what I ended up dealing with. I ended up playing against Will, and we played the shifting priorities and the destroy the base or the bunker, whatever that secondary objective is. And his list was something I thought I would end up pairing pretty well against, but I did not, because the secondary really played into his favor. And he had a lot of other things in his list that didn't work well with me. He was running a rebel list. And the thing that threw me off the most, because it's been a long time since I've played against something, it was Luke Skywalker, Hero of the Rebellion. Yes, Commander Luke Skywalker. With just force reflexes into the fray. He also had Leia, R2. He had 2 squads of vets, 2 Mark IIs, 2 rebel troopers that had the extra guys attached, as well as the ion troopers, and 2 T-47s with the outer rim speeder jockey. What really worked in his favor was I forgot how Luke's cards work, and the T-47s are really fast. So, the secondary objective is to get to one of the get to a spot with the token, and you blow up the bomb for 4 points, and his T-47 made it there on turn 1. So, and I don't have enough impact in my list to deal with them. Additionally, the T-47s with the outer rim speeder jockey, they have cover 2 on top of their armor 3, which I think is really good. because you can get rid. If your dice are lucky enough, you could get rid of any of the impact that's going to matter in somebody's shot. Or anything like that. To my knowledge, and I haven't done too much research, I think that's the only heavy that can get cover 2. Maybe the land speeder also, but I can't remember its stats off the top of my head.
I think it can take the speeder Jackie and its cover 1 also.
Yeah, I just don't know because I know the stats changed on that. I'm gonna look up real fast. Let's see here.
Yep.
This is why Tabletop and Admiral's always open.
It is cover 1.
It is cover 1, so alright. It can also go to cover 2. So the Rebels, then, to my knowledge, are the only faction that can get their heavies up to cover 2. Which, huge. So that was interesting to know. Continuing the tradition of getting Vader into melee on turn 1, Vader did get into melee turn 1 and murdered R2-D2. R2-D2 is already down to 1 health, though, from an RT shot from a dewback. And I couldn't do any more shots because of his keyword that inconspicuous. So I went, oh, hey, if I burst of speed with Vader, I can make it into R2. Let's just finish off R2 on turn 1.
Yep, you just had to kick him at that point, Vader.
Yeah, I just needed 1 hit. It was, that reminded me in my my first game against Hob. Vader got into melee on turn 1, rolls his 5 red, and got 1 hit. It was so sad. So sad. But this is where I ended up making some mistakes because, again, I forgot Luke's cards. Turn 2, he played the card where Luke can't attack and makes an enemy nearby not be able to attack. And so, all right, cool. Now Vader can't attack this turn. This is fun. And then the next turn, I completely forgot about Son of Skywalker. And I should have played Fear and Dead Man, and I didn't. If I had, we would have traded. But instead, I lost Vader. This is on top of the fact that by this point, I'd also lost my Royal Guard because they just got blasted off the table after they made a beeline with a new ways into melee with an unactivated unit. So at that point, I just didn't have the firepower or the shenanigans because I was down to just using standing orders for a card. So I conceded the game. It was not going to go well. I wasn't going to end up scoring anything. The bomb I needed for the secondary objective, which was one of the few ways I might be able to get back, was in the middle of all of his core, and they were doubled up core. The Royal Guard were dead, so I had nothing that was immune pierce, so Luke was just going to have his way with everything. It was rough. So again, learned a lot. I had a lot of fun. Hob was the TO, and he put on a great event. It also, I lucked out that the final round I was actually playing on the table I brought, so I was able to just pack up my table and leave and not have to wait for all the other games to finish.
Bonus.
It was a nice little bonus. Just because at that point I was just tired and I wanted to go home. I had a lot of fun. I will say things I learned from these games that I'm doing a lot of theory crafting now for Nova. As of recording, it's about a week and a half away. So I am in bit of a panic mode trying to figure out what I'm going to play. Other than the fact I know I'm playing Empire. So some of the things I'm looking at, I know I need to bring a list that's got a little bit more impact. My Impact 2 with my Snowtroopers plus just the Impact 3 on Vader's lightsaber. It wasn't enough when I ran into a double airspeeder. if I ran into triple ATST, I would probably have just been shot off the table. Even with not full armor, yet I need a little bit more impact. I don't think as heavy of a melee skew is necessarily as good objectively. Again, I had IRG, 3 dewbacks, and Vader. It was a lot of fun, don't get me wrong. Anybody who likes those units, I highly recommend giving it a try, because you just new ways, turn 1 or 2, and you can basically have everybody in there except for Vader if you new ways on turn 1. But I think you need to have a little bit of both. I do think you need to have probably 2 melee units, because the objectives force you to get close. And then you do want to have some ranged units too. Ideally, you want a mobile list, because the objectives are a little bit spread out, and you want to have some ability to both move and shoot. That's what I'm thinking about right now. So some of the things I'm playing around with are range troopers. Seem like a really good idea, because they can move, shoot something, and still get, if they're shooting a core, not a core, but a trooper unit, they'll still get that aim. So that's something to, take advantage of. I've been looking at some other ways to just trying to have some order control. I'm even looking at, I know a lot of people are saying the LAT's not good, but the LAT does have cover 1 natively, plus its armor 5. So unlike all the other things that have armor 5, it still has cover. So I think that there might be some play there. I don't know if it's play for, an event like Nova, but even if you're not using it as a transport, it could still be useful as a gunship, because it is fast and it can spread out, and it's not that expensive, honestly. If you just put 1 ordnance on it, it's only up to 112 points, which is not a lot with a 1,000-point army. So I think there is some play with the LAT. Don't give me that look, John. There are probably better things than the LAT. I'm just thinking it's one of the few heavies that has cover. So I think it's more survivable now than it used to be. Comparatively. Not by much, but yes. But yeah, I don't know. I think I want units that move. It's never really been one of my strong suits. I've either been a full W or a sit back and shoot. So trying to find a list that works for me and is a middle ground is kind of tough. And it's definitely going to take some time to get used to it. Especially since we know more changes will be coming in the future. So I don't know how comfortable I'll get, thinking, hey, this works right now, but, well, this unit might change in the future. So, I was playing around with an idea of a crazy Blizzard Force list with, Ion and flamethrowers and a bunch of bikes, and I don't know, it feels like a lot, and also I don't own enough of any of those to play it, so I don't know, it's a weird world of theory crafting. The other thing I think, if you can add more of it in your list, it's a huge benefit, is Pierce. A lot of the characters did get Pierce taken away for better dice for their shots. Any of the characters who got upgraded cards. So finding Pierce is a little bit more difficult. But I think Pierce's value has gone up a lot. It was always good. I just think it's better now because there's less of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like range troopers. I think you're onto something there. I think if you can, because the game seems like it snowballs so quickly, so I think if you can alpha strike something turn one and start knocking out units right out of the gate. So it's both safer for you as the game goes on, because your opponent is obviously playing with less units, but also you're eliminating scoring units in the process. And you can kind of get that snowball effect going earlier, so sooner rather than later, and doing it from range with, range troopers, as the name implies. But also, like you said, the action economy for them is so good, being able to move and not get that aim via like an aim action, but get it as a freebie because of advanced targeting, and you're most likely going to be shooting troopers, so you're pretty much always going to get that aim. So the action economy is there. Kind of like the same reason I like ARC troopers is the move, aim, shoot because of tactical. So I think that's solid, and then you throw Indomitable in there. So if you need to use the spur, at least you can get that suppression off easily. Or if you're just getting hit with a ton of weapons, getting suppression off is huge. So I like the range trooper idea, personally. Out of all of the ideas mentioned, the lat idea is probably on the bottom of my list.
What can I say? I'm a sucker for the lat. I will say one thing to keep in mind is your army's not going to be balled up anymore. You have to spread out. The objectives are designed to be spread out.
Yeah.
So I think it's more imperative now than ever to have 2 commanders in your army. So, because the courage bubble hasn't gotten any bigger. You can issue orders to somebody on the far side of the table. But if you run into not having a courage bubble and you don't have Indomitable, or there's nothing nearby that can get the suppression off you, you could end up panicking and not scoring the objectives when you need to. Because the suppression doesn't come off until after the scoring happens. So I think you either need to make sure your commander's in the middle of your army as they're spreading around, or bring 2. Additionally, I think lead by example stock has gone up. I don't necessarily think it's an auto-include on any army, but I think it has become a lot better of a card, because suppression feels a bit more impactful, especially since Empire players are really liking Krennic and his 3-pip now. So that was the one thing that Hob was basically going to say was the only thing that could have still prevented me from winning had we gone to turn 5, was playing Annihilation Looms. And if my units couldn't activate, they probably were panicked and would still be panicked and wouldn't score at the end. So you gotta think of ways to mitigate suppression. So maybe that means more vehicles. Maybe that means, as I said, lead by example. Maybe that means bring in commanders with a higher courage value. I mean, I don't know. I've been thinking of having things like strict order in my list because it's only 5 points, and just, all right, well, I can just take off 1 if that's all I need to still activate, instead of rolling dice and risk being panicked or something. So I think it's something to consider, I think, now.
And the good thing is, for myself playing clones, the fact that you can share tokens at range 2 instead of range 1, you don't necessarily have to ball up. You balled up before because you wanted everything to be able to share tokens with everything, and that was kind of part of the whole clone ball strategy. So the fact that you can essentially spread your guys out, double the distance and be range 2 apart, you don't have to ball up but still get all the same benefits. So they've kind of spread the distance for a lot of those keywords.
Yeah, specifically the clones. I mean, they don't have Exemplar anymore, and the commanders that do have it now for the other factions, you can still only spend 1 token at a time. So it's a lot less token sharing than the clones, but yeah, it is a huge help that things are now range 2 instead of range 1 in terms of being able to spread out. Because even things like Spotter and Take Cover are range 2. instead of range 1 now. So it really does help with the ability to spread out, but range 2 still isn't huge in terms of spreading out.
Yeah. Well, I like to think about it from the fact that, like, so if I have one unit leader and then I cohere one guy range half, or half range, or whatever you would call that 3-inch, the 3-inch tool out from that unit leader to his right. That's 3 inches, right? And then his base is about an inch. And then you've got 12 inches from that guy to the other closest guy, or farthest guy, we'll use in this example, who's then his base is 1 inch, and then he's 3 inches cohered out to the left of his unit leader. So now I could essentially have unit leader 3 inches, 1 inch base, 12 inches to the next unit over, who's got a 1 inch base, then 3 inches to his unit leader. So my 2 unit leaders are essentially 3 inches, 1 inch, 12 inches, 1 inch, 3 inch. So that's 20 inches from each other, but I'm still sharing tokens with each other as a clone player. If I'm cohering both squads such that one model is the farthest distance they can be out from the unit leader, from one unit leader's left and the other unit's leader's right, and then those two models are 12 inches from each other. So, I mean, you don't really have to ball up anymore, but you're still going to be able to touch 2 separate POIs and share tokens across both of those squads. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. It's a strange new world, and as much as I'm complaining about trying to figure out what I want to play for Nova, I'm having a lot of fun just looking at all the different opportunities that there are in terms of list building, because it's, as we've said before, it's the Wild West right now. You can build whatever you want, and nobody knows if it's good or not until you try it.
Yep. Exciting times. Yeah, just to reiterate my point, I'm looking at the objectives now, and intercept the signals. They're probably the farthest apart POIs.
Yeah.
I guess an argument could be for breakthrough. Like if you had, it's got like the old school advanced position like deployment zone.
Yeah, breakthrough is definitely the one where it's the most spread out, and you really have to separate your army.
But for the most part, like for intercept the signal, like you could have 2 squads on both of those points. Like if you're looking at the one that's in your deployment zone, and then whether you're going to the left or the right, like you're going to focus on one, you could have a squad on both of those points and still be sharing tokens with each other. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you'd have to pick one or the other.
Yeah. I mean, shifting priorities is also very spread out, but if you're not careful with the deployment there, like if you choose to only focus on, let's say, 3 of the 5, if you leave the other 2 completely uncontested, your opponent might take advantage of that and just keep scoring an easy 2 points every turn, and while preventing you from scoring some of the other 3.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's definitely a lot of nuance that we haven't figured out yet. They all look relatively simple, but there's definitely some nuance to each of them.
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure that out.
Then you throw in the secondary, and then that's adding a whole different element to it as well.
Yeah, and it adds a lot. It's a lot more fun, and I'm not gonna say faster yet than previous version of Legion, just because I'm not comfortable there. But I do think once I've gotten a few more reps in me, all these games should easily be under 2.5 hours, as long as the other person I'm playing also is very familiar with all these. I definitely spent the most time just reading the cards at the beginning to understand what things do. for the objectives and secondaries, more than any other part of the game. So once I'm more familiar with those, I think the game's going to go a lot faster in understanding what thought process I need to give myself while I'm playing to play the objectives. So I'll probably be, comfortable with these just in time for them to drop more stuff on us.
It's probably a fair assessment.
But in the meantime, I'll have a lot of fun.
Well, we got some exciting news around new releases.
New releases?
Stuff we
I've
heard about.
New releases.
Yeah. Stuff we heard about, but we now have actual dates that the product will be released.
Yep, we're specifically talking about the dice packs. What? No.
If you didn't have enough dice already from multiple starter boxes that you've acquired over the years.
Well,
I was hoping they'd bring out these dice packs.
I do have to say, for those who don't know, they have announced that they are coming out with new dice packs. So in the past, you would either get dice from the core box, or you would buy a dice pack which had just as many dice as that were in a core box. So basically 3 of each color. They have changed that to now it'll be 2 different dice packs, one for offense and one for defense. And I'd say that the number of dice in them is about what you would what you need realistically to add on to a core set, without doubling up on your squads. If you're doubling up on your squads, you might want to get a second one. But it's interesting that they're doing offense and defensive dice separately as 2 different dice packs rather than one big die pack. I don't quite understand it. Maybe it's they think that people are going to buy 2 packs of the attack and only need 1 pack of the defense. I don't know. But it's interesting.
That it is.
John?
I'm just counting up. I'm just counting up what's actually in these packs. So the attack dice pack, you get 4 red, 6 black, 6 white. And the defense dice pack, you get 6 red, 10 white.
Yeah. That makes about sense to me. I mean, you're more likely to have to roll more white dice than red dice now.
Yep.
Because of cover.
Yep.
So
cover.
I think the maths on the dice numbers, I just find it interesting that it's 2 separate packs.
Clone players will be rolling more white defense dice than ever. Just with all the
That's
cover
true.
roll. I used to feel like I never had to actually get out my white defense. I'd have like 2 or 3 out. It's like, I got 2 suppression. Here's 2 white defense dice. Other than that, I don't need the rest of these that I have in my box over here.
I will say I had some nice defense rolls at the tournament. There were a lot of blocking 2 out of 3s. It was a lot of fun. My white defense dice were either giving me a couple blocks or absolutely nothing. It was very swingy. I had a lot of fun. But what John was really talking about for release dates are for the Imperial Riot Control Squads and the Rebel Sleeper Cell. On the Asmodee website, they now have a release date of October 18th. And it looks like they're both $44.99 US.
Yeah. They look like they are such sweet models.
They really are.
I'm
especially the
excited
Riot Control
about
Squad.
these. Yeah, I agree.
Have I done list building that includes 6 of them? Yes. Is it good? Probably not. Does it look fun? Yes.
I will say that little Loth cat is pretty cool. I like that little guy on the sleeper cell.
On the sleeper cell? Yeah.
Yeah.
If I can just get a box of the Loth cats, that would be great.
Just put those all over the terrain.
Yeah. 100%. I just want a box of nothing but the Lothcats. Give me the Lothcat expansion.
This map is a city overrun with cats.
Yeah, I mean, I want to do another Lothal table, so give me Lothcats. I might end up buying this box just for the Lothcats.
Fair. I will not judge you.
I have painted 0 rebels, unless you want to count, the Mando and IG-11, because I can also run them in the Empire.
I wouldn't count that, because your intent was obviously not to play them in the Rebel faction.
No, I did paint Grogu, though.
All right, that would count, because you can't actually play him in the Empire faction.
Painted all 3 Grogus. Because I also got the little soup cup Grogu.
That's above and beyond, sir. Above and beyond.
But yes. So, yay. October 18th, we get new product and new dice. If you already don't like your current dice, just buy new dice. They might roll better. Who knows?
It's so ironic because after Worlds, I had all those fancy white dice from the prize wall. And I was like, well, why did I get these? I never even roll white defense dice, like I had just said, just being a clone player. And so I ended up just selling them. And then now I will need white defense dice all the time for these
It's
cover
like
rolls.
they were trying to tell you something.
I will say, if you saw the price they were going for on eBay, I do not regret it a whole lot. But...
No, I have all my
but
promo
it is
dice.
ironic.
I'm only using promo dice. People can hate me. I'm using the white clear attack dice. I don't care. I'm using only promo dice.
That's
except
terrible.
for my red defense, because there are no red defense promo dice yet.
The white promo attack dice. That is.
Yeah, no, they're terrible.
They are horrible.
They seem to crit at a slightly higher level, though.
Questionable.
At least for me.
Also.
I don't know.
What? Terrible. You can't see. Is that because you just can't see what you're rolling? So you just assume that they're... Look at that! 8 crits!
No, I'm using our red dice tray, because if I like the black one more, but I can't read them on the black dice tray, so I'm using the red dice tray.
Fair. Nice plug for the dice tray.
Yeah. It's a good dice tray. I shared my black one with my last opponent on Saturday, so he didn't have a dice tray and didn't want to keep walking around the table and using mine. So I said, "Here, use a second one. Roll over there."
It's good sportsmanship, sir. Speaking of Discord, I gave a not what I would call amazing plug for our Discord on the last episode, and I feel like we had a record number of people right after that episode join our Discord. I think we had 5 join within like 24, 48 hours. Yeah. Bumping us almost to 100 Discord members, which is quite the milestone. I think we're in like the high 90s. So we will give.
We are at 6.
Give us a count, Brendan.
Hold, please. I can't do this kind of math in my head.
Well, either way, whatever it is, which Brendan will tell us soon. If you're not part of our Discord and you are a regular listener of the podcast and you would like to interact with us, we strongly urge and encourage you to join the Discord so that you can join the conversation, see the pet pictures, see pictures of Corey with long hair, all kinds of entertaining things. That was, I don't know if that went into pet pictures, but that was where I was saying it should have gone.
It did.
It did?
It did
Okay, awesome.
Yes.
Then you get the honor of having Evan crop just the eyes of your pet and or person if you're Corey. And yeah, it's a good time. We have a good time in the Discord. We've got some game recaps, rules discussion, hobby pictures, train and tape, all kinds of stuff. So if you are not in the Discord, it would be awesome if we could bump that number up to 100 or above. And yeah, just see if we can keep this thing growing. What is our official
number?
number?
95 right now.
If we could get another 5. So if you're not in the Discord, join the Discord. And post up.
Yeah,
a picture of your
we have
pet.
fun in the Discord. We lose all semblance of sanity. Not that I've ever projected much on this podcast because I keep talking about the lat. But we have a good time. People do. When you ask for feedback, we will give you good feedback. I will not say every list should have a lat in the Discord. I will give you my actual thoughts on your list or whatever you want to ask questions about.
And the Discord is free.
Everything about us is free.
Everything about us is free. So this literally is, there's no obligation to just join the Discord. And somebody also said in our Discord to me, I think it was it Dirty Diffs, sent me a message of how to invite people to the Discord so that I didn't have to keep pinging you and Corey when people, when I was like, oh, somebody should join. How do I do that? How do I actually invite someone?
Yeah.
So yes, thank you for that. So we'll give a shout out to you. I appreciate that. Any helpful advice is always welcome.
Especially when it comes to technology for John.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, anything else, John?
If you'd like to email us and you want Brendan to read it, because he's the one who checks the emails, you can do that. What is our email, Brendan?
It is swlingloriousblasters@gmail.com.
swinggloriousblasters@gmail.com.
Yes, swingglorious blasters.
Cool. And now we have reached the level of slap happy.
Just now? I thought we started there.
I pretty much enter at that point because we record like an hour from my bedtime. So
we tend to record right before my bedtime, so my brain's already been shutting off for the past hour. So it works.
Well, let's land the ship, sir.
Yeah. I guess we can call it a ship. I don't know. Is it really a ship? I guess it's a ship. It goes on the airwaves.
Let's land this land speeder.
Alright, well, we are the Inglorious Blasters. I'm Brendan.
I'm John.
Ship-dee-doo-dah, ship-a-dee-dah.
Stay glorious, everybody. Stay glorious. Where in the world is Corey? He gone.